our manufacturing facility was closed for about 5 weeks during the year. As COVID recedes further, we expect the demand environment to improve from Q2. During Q1, our EBITDA margins were also lower due to lower revenue. The working capital days have slightly gone up as compared to previous year due to lesser revenue and also higher inventory built up to take care of upcoming season. Thank you. Let's go for Q&A.
Thank you. So anyone with a question, please raise your hand and then we will accordingly queue you for the questions. We have the first question from Akash Jain from Money Curves. Please go ahead. So you can unmute and go ahead.
I think now I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for taking my call. Mayuresan, I have a couple of questions. I think one is, like you said, things are obviously improving in Q2, but in your presentation, you also continue to stick with the earlier guidance of 10 to 15% revenue and margins as of last year. So do you think that's achievable given what has happened? Assuming that there is no more COVID-3 and all that, COVID-3 wave and all that, things remaining reasonably okay, do you see you can get there? And I think the other question I had is on revenue. I think our performance is okay. Slightly, probably, if I look at all the peers and I compare what has been the year-on-year growth or what has been the decline from Q4, our revenue performance is not significantly lower. But I think somewhere somehow our margins seems to be significantly lower as compared to our peers. Even if you adjust for revenues, somehow probably they are able to manage their employee cost and their advertising and distribution costs far better than us. And to me, that is a significant area that probably the company needs to look into, because if I look at all the three peers, obviously some of them have slightly higher revenue base. But even if you adjust for higher revenue base for the recently listed player, their margins are significantly higher than us. And I think we really need to look at our efficiencies and margins, because I think that is one thing that has been a slight disappointment for this quarter. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Akash. Yes, as per our outlook, we definitely feel 15% growth with similar EBITDA margins is definitely doable. In the Q1, yes, our margins are slightly lower. One of the main reasons is because of lower revenue. We expected at least 50 crores of more revenue than what we achieved because of sudden lockdowns that got impacted, and our fixed cost was not controlled because of that. But going forward, we feel that seeing the current scenario like what we see in July, it is looking very promising, and we can definitely do 15% growth, which we feel is definitely doable. And also on the margin front, we have given little conservative numbers that will be closer to last year numbers. We are trying to do more on that also.
So I just think I have a follow-up question just on this, Mayuresan. One is, I think what is probably happening, and I'm not so sure. One, if I have to make a wild guess, I would basically say that earlier a lot of our sales were driven by offline channel, right? Our MT and GT and all of that. Now, significant part of sales is also coming from online, and I don't know whether the advertising spends now need to have a full relook in terms of how much incremental advertising revenues we are doing on what channel. It's quite possible that our offline channel is not as strong now because online has become stronger, but we continue to spend as much money on the offline channel or on advertising. So I don't know whether our advertising base is going up much higher than what I can see for our peers. So I think advertising and employee cost are clearly two areas where I think some possible relook can happen. That's just a feedback from an investor.
Definitely, Akash. On the advertising, if you see, advertising is always variable in our case. For different channels, we have different costs, which is variable. Even in e-commerce, we have a considerable amount of digital advertising, which happens with respect to the sales. So yes, we are relooking on how to make it better. And also on the retail side, we want to keep it more of in a fixed way going forward. That's what we are relooking.
Okay. Thank you so much, Meera.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I will just unmute the participant. Please unmute yourself and see if you can speak, and please state your name and the institution name.
Yes, hi, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Mayuresh and hi Anandji. This is Priyam here from Infinity Alternatives. So congratulations on a decent set of numbers in a tough quarter. Just wanted to understand, out of the 870 crore sales which we did last year, what is the export proportion in it? Because when we look at our peers, the larger one is talking about a 500 crore export turnover in 2-3 years, and the recently listed one is talking about a 200-300 crore export turnover. So what are we doing on this side? And just wanted to understand that.
Our export is in fact lower. Last year we did about 11 to 12 crores of export. We are just starting. Only 1 year back we started getting in a lot of distributors for export. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not able to take it further. And initially our highest focus was on the retail market, where we want to gain market shares and come back to where we want to be. And now we have started to focus on exports also, and we've gotten a lot of distributors whom we are discussing and trying to go multi-folds in that area. There is a huge scope for us because we are just at 10-11 crores, and we definitely feel we can go 100 crores in 2 to 3 years time.
Okay, so when we chart out our journey from say 900 to 1400, which is our current capacity, exports would be 100, you mean to say?
Yes, it will be more than 100.
Okay. And in terms of recent, so if I want to understand the channel mix for the current 140 crore sale, channel mix or geography mix, so South has been more impacted due to COVID. So what would be the non-South portion in this first quarter as compared to what it was say last year?
The channel mix, it's very similar to what we had last year. Even though South was hit in retail, but we were able to cover it in e-commerce. So that helped us to grow. But if you see the overall channel mix, about close to 34-35% is from non-South markets for Q1. It's slightly on the higher side.
Okay. And in July, when you say that the sales have been good, is it both from South and non-South the sales have been improving?
Because all the retail markets are open in July.
Okay.
It's functioning normal, and it's we are seeing a very good demand. It's very market is actually good.
Okay. And price increases across the portfolio, can you just give a broad range about the quantum of price increase which you've taken this quarter or say in the last 6 months?
The last 6 months, we've started increasing from Jan. If you take from Jan, we've done about 3 price increases. So it is about some products have gone up by 10%, some products have gone up by 15%. So it's between 10 to 15% in the last 6 to 7 months.
Okay, and is it enough to capture the raw material inflation which has happened? Because when I look at our EBITDA margin guidance as compared to last year, this year we're expecting around 100-150 crore incremental sales over last year. But if our gross margin is same and our advertising remains same, why is our EBITDA margin guidance lower? Are we being conservative here, or is there something which we are missing here?
There is a decrease in gross margins. Gross margins have actually come down by about 1%. That is the main reason our EBITDA is coming down a bit. But we are also evaluating that to see during the season if we can do something on increasing margins with product mix, as well as we are also considering some price increase. So that is something which we are looking at this point.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side. All the best.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just request to all the participants, there is a small technical glitch. Some of your names is not popping up properly. So my only request is when you kind of go ahead and ask a question, please state your name and institution name. For some reason, Binay happens to have replicated 25, 30 times here. I don't know why, but sorry about that. But we'll just open you up and you can state your name. Even the next one, according to us on the line, is again Binay going to ask a question, but I don't know who it is. Binay will open them up and then you can ask the question, please. Yeah, thanks. Sorry about this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity. Just a couple of questions. So one is, in case of our advertisement and promotional expenses, I mean, when we look at this expense, if you can, just help us understand what are the promotion and dealer related expense. Because when we compare our numbers with our peers, it looks like that our gross margins looks higher because of that, and our ad spend also looks higher because of that. And why can't we, classify those promotional expenses in the raw material cost, or let's say net it off from the sales? Because I think that is the practice what other players also follow, and it makes our numbers more like to like comparable. So if you can just, just give some commentary over it on what is the right way to really look at it, because in last year, which was COVID environment, there were so many uncertainties, but the whole number acts like a variable cost. And even in this quarter, that number is acting like a variable cost, because these are discretionary spends which anyone would take back, and it gets reflected in a better EBITDA margin. So some thoughts over there would really help.
All product related schemes, even in terms of promotion activities, all comes under the raw material cost. The gross margin is net of that. All pure ATL, digital advertising, commerce advertisements, below the line expenditure, all those things will come under advertisement and promotions. All product related schemes is already net off in sales. So that is already shown in with the impact shown as in gross margins.
Okay, then why would we not take back our ad spend in this quarter? I mean, what stops us from that? Or I'm still not clear with that. I mean, in this quarter, why we could not have taken ad spends back?
So Q1 is generally lower in ad spends. Generally, ad spends goes higher in Q2 and Q3. Since it's variable, it generally picks up during the season, and in Q4 it comes back to normal levels, to a lower level.
And
this quarter there was no advertisement expenses. There will be minimal advertisement expenses. The EBITDA margins are lower because of lower size of the business. We did only 140 odd crore revenue.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. But sir, I mean, the larger question is more on even on the manufacturing efficiencies. When we compare our cost structure of manufacturing with, let's say, with other peers, and one of the peers which has recently listed. So why is there such a big gap in the manufacturing cost that is in our P&L and which is there in their P&L, and where can these efficiencies start reflecting in our P&L? I mean, some thought process over there, how things are different, and how we should understand those numbers.
Major costs in terms of employee cost is because of sales, marketing, and service. Manufacturing cost is actually we have one of the lowest manufacturing costs. More than 80% of our sold products are manufactured in-house. And since we have a huge volume, the manufacturing cost is low. In fact, the reason why our EBITDA has gone down is only because of the sales. Because of the revenue, we anticipated a 50 crore higher revenue, which wasn't there because of lockdowns, and we had a 5-week shutdown even in our manufacturing plant because of the regulations here.
Okay, and sir, in case of e-commerce channel, which basically that we and one other players are capitalizing on that, and we have shown very strong scale up in last 2 years, and it's been a commendable performance. But based on some feedback from the channel, from basically dealers and distributors, we got that through e-commerce, you can sell the product pan India and it is not difficult. But in case of after sales service, let's say when someone has received the product in a non-South area where our after sales service centers are not really there. Then in case of handling repairs, how does things work? Because these are every company have their niche stores and spares, and so how does that work? Because do we see a risk of brand dilution that we are selling the product pan India, but then after sales service network is not there pan India? So how are we trying to balance over here?
Our service centers presence is there across India. We are there pan India basis. Some areas we are there with the franchising model. Some area we are there with the direct service model. Even though we are not present across in retail channel, but we are there for service, for after sales service.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. That was helpful.
Thank you.
Anyone with a question? Request you to raise your hand. We have the next question from Rohan Advan from Multi-Act. Please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity, and congratulations on a good set of numbers in context of the environment. My question again is on ad spend. And if I look at the ad spend that we did last year, which is roughly 95 crores, and if I look at, say, even a TTK, which has done 110 crores of ad spends, on 2,200 crores of revenue. So, at what point or at what scale do you think that ad spends as an absolute number, is sufficient, and as a percentage it should keep on decreasing? Are we near that scale right now, or is it still a couple of years away? And so that is the thing I wanted to understand. Thank you.
Yes, Rohan, we are actually near that. Our idea is when we reach 1,000 crore of revenue, until then we'll go with a variable method, and after that we want to keep it as a fixed cost model. And since we are almost near that, we will probably be keeping it going towards a more fixed model.
Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you. We have the next question from Aditya Mehta. Please go ahead. Aditya Mehta, if you can hear me.
Aditya, you need to unmute yourself before you can speak, please.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Mayuresan. Thanks for the opportunity. So, Mayuresan, in our one of the previous con calls, we mentioned that we will be going for expansion as we are nearing 1,000 crore turnover mark. But if we look at our gross block, it's still the same as of last year. So, haven't we started going for expansion, or if we will look at sometime later?
We have already started investments. We've done about close to 10 crores of investment already. We will be doing another 15 to 20 crore. With 30 crore of investment, we can go up to 1,400 crore of revenue. So it's going on. It's been little slowed because of COVID scenarios, but we've already done about 10 crores. Another 20 crore will be done by this year or early next year.
Okay, great. And just one more question. So just want to understand what is the industry-wide scenario. If you see that raw material prices are increasing and there might be some issues with the unorganized players to procure raw materials, get on time. So is it the business for them as usual, or they are facing some difficulties too?
It's a very, very difficult scenario for them, not only because of price fluctuation. The availability is also a serious problem here. So it's both ways. They are getting affected, and larger brands like us, we are able to get that without a problem. But for unorganized, that is becoming a huge problem.
Okay. And sorry, just one more last question. So I was going through your annual report and just want to highlight one point. that we have mentioned that IoT and AI, artificial intelligence, have begun to redefine cooking and kitchen appliances, and strategic plans have been drawn for next gen growth with automation and future driven products. So, just wanted your views on this point.
So we started doing that in manufacturing to enable better manufacturing and better controls. We are also thinking of getting those in our products because a new age product in few years will all be enabled with IoT. So we are also trying that, and we are also taking help of various institutions to see how it is viable to bring it in our products.
So this AI and IoT thing, will this be in kitchen appliances only, or we will have separate division for home appliances? Then we will integrate into them.
We are trying to integrate that in our products because even we feel in our products for the future that will become the future in 2 years' time.
Okay. Thank you, Mayuresan, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. As requested earlier, since all the names are featuring as Binay Sarda, so would request you to please kindly state your name and your institution name once you begin to ask question. So I have just unmuted. Please, if you can talk, it's by the name Binay Sarda. You can start. Yeah, your question.
Yeah, this is Pawan from Ratnatraya Capital. I would like to understand what are the current channel financing limits and the bill discounting facility outstanding.
Rose, can you give that number? Can you share that number?
18.4 crores.
That would be what, sir?
The bill discounting.
And what would be channel financing?
Channel financing only I'm saying. Channel finance bill discounting only I'm saying 18.4 crores.
On Data's channel financing, it's about 18.4 crores utilized by end of June.
Okay. And there is also an bill discounting facility which was outstanding as of Q4, 28 crores. So it was a different one than the channel financing.
No, channel finance only we are mentioning, sir. Channel finance bill discounting only in March is 28.47. Now it is 18.4.
And there is another number of 50 crores where you share 45 days of funding, interest funding with the retailers. So what is that portion, sir?
No, overall limit is 50 crores. We have availed a channel finance facility from the NBFCs. For that, our session as on June and March only, we have given that figures.
Okay, that outstanding would be 18 crores.
Yes.
Okay. So bill discounting and channel financing, whatever is outside our current debt, balance sheet debt, that is only 18 crores, is it?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And secondly, so we have already done 70 crores of incremental revenue as compared to FY21 in Q1. So are we saying from here on we will be able to maintain that same kind of vigor on the sales as on last year?
Yes, current situation, what we are seeing in Q2 is very, very good. And definitely we can see a good amount of growth in Q2, Q3 and Q4. Unless we have a third wave, which we hope it shouldn't be a scenario during at least the seasonal period. And we are very confident that we will do at least minimum of 15% growth for this year.
Okay. That would mean around between 950 to 1,000 crores of revenues, right?
Yes.
Okay. And on EBITDA margins, we are guiding the same as last year.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you. We have the next question from again the name shows as Binay Sarda. So I've given you the permission to speak. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and state your name and institution name.
Hello, sir. So Mukul Jain from Carnelian Capital, and thanks for the opportunity. I had a question on the e-commerce front. So just wanted to know what is the proportion of e-commerce in the Q1 FY22 against the normal mix?
E-commerce for this year, we estimate it to be between 30 and 40%. It will be closer to 40%. Q1, it was slightly on the higher side, not on a huge way, but by the year end, we estimate it to be between 30 and to 40%.
So Q1, if you could let me know the percentage terms.
Q1, it is about 44 to 45%.
Yeah, just a follow-up on that. So what are the additional cost differences which we like see in the normal general trade versus the e-commerce part? So for example, I know e-commerce, we have to give commissions to the Amazon and the Flipkarts. Apart from that, we have to do some digital advertising. Any other cost which is different per se with the uh, general trade or the modern trade?
No, in terms of advertising and promotions, there is digital and commerce ads, which is spent on e-commerce sales. Because when you type, for example, a product like mixer grinder, your name should come on the top, and with your brand and with your ratings, your product gets sold. So your name to come on top, there's an advertising cost which is paid.
So that is the additional cost above the normal cost which we incur, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And one more question on the cookware front. So like across peer, we are seeing cookware grew exceptionally well as against the pressure cookers. So just had a question, what is the driving factor behind the demand which is coming actually from the cookware versus the pressure cooker, which was a bit low on an YOY basis?
So pressure cooker, we've done significantly well in Q1 compared to last Q1. Even though the base is not exactly comparable, we estimate pressure cooker to significantly well for this year because compared to competitors, our base is very, very small. There's a lot of scope for our pressure cookers to grow. And we are also launching new products on all the categories. And on the cookware, pressure cooker and cookware means pressure cookers and non-stick cookware. Non-stick cookware also has a immense scope for us because our base is very, very small.
Okay, yes, I seen your presentation growing 200%. So just a bit on margin front. So what would be the difference between the pressure cooker and cookware roughly?
So pressure cooker margins are slightly higher than non-stick cookware. Non-stick cookware, it's a highly consumable product. It goes in high volumes. In terms of margin, there's a difference. Pressure cooker has one of the highest margins in our product portfolio.
Okay, got it, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. We have the next question. Again, the name again shows as Bines Sarda. So I've just unmuted you. Please, if you can unmute and state your name and the institution name.
Yeah, hi, I am Akshat Haria from Multi-Ag PMS. I had few questions. Firstly, on our growth for the year, you say that the presentation says that we can grow between 10 to 15%. However, only if I look at Q1, we've already done 145 crores as compared to 75 crores last year. So that's, a significant part of that annual 15% growth is already captured over here. Apart from that, we've already taken roughly 10% price hike across our product categories over last 6 months. So that essentially implies that maybe our volume growth, which we are forecasting as of now, is pretty much low single digit. So is that interpretation right, or is our guidance very, very conservative?
Q2 and Q3 and Q4 base is actually very high in last year. But internally, our target is much higher. So we have given a conservative outlook of 15% growth, 10 to 15% growth. It will internally, our goal is to do that.
Okay. And also, next question on the margin side, we've taken, as you said, price hikes across our product categories in the range of 10% plus or minus. However, if you look at all our major commodity, the raw material price inflation over there seems to be much higher, and the trajectory only seems to be upwards. So if we continue to take these kind of price hikes, say a 5% a quarter or 4% a quarter price hike, what would be our demand elasticity at those price levels, and whether, at what price does the management think that, there could be some impact on our demand situation?
We are doing multiple ways to make sure our gross margins are kept intact. One is by price increase. Not all the cost can be passed to consumers. So on the other side, we are trying to reduce product-related schemes for the season to maintain good margins. Even in spite of that, our margins have come down by about 1 to 2% in gross levels. Currently, what we were seeing 3-4 months back, that kind of uncertainty is not there. There is an increase, but not very volatile. So we are trying to see how to increase or how to reduce schemes. So we'll make sure that we'll be able to grow without affecting on the inflation component.
One last question on the exports front, because most of our competitors have been speaking that export looks to be a very promising market for our category over next 2 to 3 years. So what are exactly the kind of markets that we are looking at? I'm sure we would be looking at Indian diaspora to begin with, but the kind of market, and also I presume this we would be doing it on negligible credit terms or almost on cash and advance basis. So just your view on export market opportunity and the kind of markets that we are looking for in exports over next 2 to 3 years. Thank you.
Current exports is done on immediate payment terms, but with the growth potential which we have, there might be negligible credit in some areas which we are thinking. We started bringing in a lot of distributors. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we were not able to focus that, and we wanted, and even internally, our focus would want to be more getting market share in the domestic markets, and export is something which has immense potential for us with our brand strength and the very high Indian diaspora across the world. We definitely feel that in 2-3 years time we can cross 100 crore of revenue only by export.
Sure, thank you, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshat.
Thank you. So we have the next question. Again, the name shows as Dinesh Arda. I have allowed you the permission to talk. Please unmute yourself and state your name and institution name.
Hi, Venkat Subramanian from Organic Capital. I just had a broad industry level question. What is your judgment of the online shoppers? Are the millennials a little more accepting with respect to not wanting service requirements later? Are they more prone to use and discard, and therefore are they becoming a little brand agnostic, or do you think they are chasing price points?
Okay, it used to, and before COVID, it used to be more millennial population getting into e-commerce. But with the COVID, we see that even the general population is going towards e-commerce because of non-availability or because of shops not opened. So that had changed. That is the reason e-commerce is growing much faster than the traditional retail market because of the current scenario. And yes, we capture even our service recalls with different channels as well. It is all in that data. We are not able to say if it's becoming a more use and throw kind of case at this point, because there are service calls which is happening where our team is going and doing servicing, and even non-warranty cases also coming. So I'm not able to say at this point if it's changing.
And how accepting are the customers when it comes to brand extensions, and what are the limitations thereof?
Brand plays a huge role.
Brand extensions, I mean, as Butterfly, do you think you will get accepted if you went to, let's say, an ironing accessory, etc.?
You mean to get into newer categories?
Correct.
Okay. Currently, our focus is more into kitchen and small appliances. We've not we've not focused on getting into other areas, but slowly we will be getting into some other areas which is closely associated with these products. We can't get into larger appliances very fast but we will be more focused on products which will be sold under similar network and in a similar category.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a next question. Again, the name shows as Binay Sarda. So I have allowed you the permission to talk. Please state your name and your company's name before beginning to ask the question. Hello. Yes, you can.
You need to unmute yourself, please, before you can ask a question.
Looks like it's come to me again. This is Venkat, but I'm done. I'm sorry about this.
Okay. We have a next question from Varun Arora. Please go ahead.
Hi. This is Varun from G Shipping Family Office. My question is regarding A&P spend. So I just want to understand the channels, like, which are the dominant channels on which we are doing this advertisement. If you can talk about one, what were the dominant channels, and also last year, what were the dominant channels?
Your voice actually wasn't very clear. You are asking about our advertising and promotion spends. Where do we do, right?
Yes,
Mostly.
yes.
It is purely variable in our case. Different channels have different variable numbers. For example, if you take a traditional retail, we spend anywhere between 12 to 14%. In terms of e-commerce, we spend around 10%. In different channels have a different mix. So depending on the sales ratio, we spend with respect to that.
Right. And the discounting that is given, you said that is all part of your raw materials. So that is all incorporated in your gross margin.
Yes, in terms of product related schemes and if you buy 10, you get one free. Those kind of schemes will all be net of sales.
Right. And one more point regarding your gross margin. So you said basically, obviously because of the commodity headwinds, there will be some impact on gross margins. But you mentioned you will try to mitigate that through product mix. Can you describe that on that front? Like, can you elaborate on that point, please?
We can mitigate it in two ways. One is price increase, which is the normal way. But up to one point, you can do that. After that, you'll not be able to do that easily. So the other way is you try and reduce the product-related schemes and discounts which we give to distributors and retailers. So to minimize the impact of margins.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. we have a next question. Again, the name shows as Binay Sarda. I've unmuted you. Request you to unmute yourself and ask a question. Please state your name and the institution name.
Hi, this is Nilesh here, Nilesh Jethani from Envision Capital. So my first question was on the e-com side. So we are seeing a good traction as far as the e-com sales are concerned. And I believe in FY21, e-com contributed around 18 to 20% of our retail sales, branded sales. Just wanted to understand, so the growth, what we are seeing in, say, Q1 of FY22 again, would be largely because of the offline channels being not available. But say going forward, the next 2 years or from 5-year perspective, what sense do we carry as far as e-com sales are concerned? Where we aspire e-com sales to be?
E-com, in today's scenario, we feel that it will be 30 to 40% of our sales. And even last year, during Q1 and Q2, we saw huge e-com sales. Towards Q3 and Q4, we saw a lot of retail sales when the market were coming back to normal. Even in the similar scenario which we are seeing this year also. In Q1, there was a good number of e-commerce sales. In Q2, what we are seeing in July is there's a good retail offtake which is currently happening. So we estimate e-commerce today and over next 2 years, it will be between 30 to 40% of our sales.
Understood. And one thing I also wanted to understand, so when we place our products on the e-com website, so do we maintain the warehouse, or we ask the e-com guys to do the warehousing work for us?
No, e-com, once it's sold to them, all inventory is taken care of by them.
Sorry, I didn't get it. When we say sold to them, for example, yeah, go ahead.
We have two ways. Once it's sold to them, inventory is taken care of by them. But what we do is before season, we keep a warehouse where we try and build inventory for them. And once it's sold to them, inventory is with them. Even the warehousing cost is taken care by them.
Understood. As a result, as you mentioned last time also, hence the gross margins are slightly lower when we have large portion of the e-com sales.
Actually, gross margins have gone down because of the increasing raw material prices,
yes,
which happened from last November.
But in general, e-com would have a lower margins, say in normal scenario.
So what we thought was retail channel will be delivering 43 to 44% gross margins. E-commerce will be 42 to 43, not at the range of 40-41%. That is only because of raw material prices. At EBITDA, even though there is a difference of 1.5%, at EBITDA it will be similar to retail.
Okay. And one more thing on the e-com side. So generally, how as a company we aspire our products to be? Are we the value products or the price leaders in the category? So once we display our products, so what's the thought process there on the e-com platform?
We are present in mass market, not only value range, mass market, mid and premium range.
Okay, understood. Second question was on the overall growth aspirations. Say in FY21, we did around 860 crores odd revenue, and we are expecting a 10 to 15% growth this year. Of course, this implements some degrowth for the rest of the 9 months period. But say from a next 2 to 3 year perspective, say if we reach a revenue of around say 1200 crores and our ad spends, we aspire to keep it at a similar levels in absolute terms. So can we expect a EBITDA margin of in the range of 11 to 12%, or it is too high assumption?
No, definitely, when we cross that, when we cross 1200 crore of revenue, our EBITDA, all the gross margins which we earn will be passed to EBITDA. There will not be much variable costs.
Understood. And one thought process I needed of yours. So when I see your presentation with regards to the branded sales and the other sales or the government orders from FY12 to FY16, So I see in the year FY16, a lot of revenue came from the government orders. So just wanted to understand typically what is the replacement cycle for our products, and do we aspire that the products which were sold via government orders, say between FY13 to FY16, that will have a replacement demand which will drive our branded sales? Just a thought process whether this will come back or what would be.
If you see, we participated in the orders of tabletop wet grinders. The general life of a wet grinder is about 6 to 7 years. For a mixer grinder, which even though we didn't participate, which was given as a freebie, mixer grinder life is about 4 to 5 years.
Understood. So we can anticipate some kind of revenues from that side also.
Definitely, yes. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, those are my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone with a question, request you to raise your hand. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes. Okay. We have a question from Varun Arora. Please go ahead. Please unmute your line and go ahead.
Yeah, just one follow-up regarding, the sales growth guidance that we are giving. So we are kind of building for next 9 months, no growth. Is it because we are also taking some action on working capital side? Like, is there any particular channel? Like, I think in Q4, you spoke about, not doing sales through gas dealer channel, where you thought working capital is on the higher side. So is some sort of that initiative going on, to correct the working capital, which is why we are you're kind of being conservative on sales growth?
We want to keep gas dealer channel to about 50 to 55 crores of revenue. And we want to remain it in that way. The growth will happen in traditional retail and new channels, but gas dealer channel, we want to keep it at that way. We are not limiting sales growth because of working capital reasons. Okay, we've said we'll grow by 10-15%. Our internal target is higher than that. Probably by Q2, we'll revise that estimate, seeing how the scenario pans out in the next 2 months. We will definitely not lose sales because of working capital reasons, because we want to capture the sale and we want to make sure that we are efficient in collections also.
Sure. And just margin, so in like May and in Q4 con call, we mentioned that we are targeting 10% margins. So now we've basically lowered to similar margins level as last year. What has changed in between? I mean, would you call it basically the commodity prices have escalated in between, and so the price hikes that you'll be taking, there will be a lag? What has changed in between?
That is solely because of gross margins, mainly because of raw material cost.
Right. So in this context, how do you see the competitive intensity? Like, is the industry, how is the behavior of other players? Are the other players also kind of taking price hikes or prices lower in quantum compared to the Hello.
Yeah, now it's now we can hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, how is the behavior of competition? Is the competition also taking price hikes in line with the commodity prices? Or, I mean, there are some players who are kind of like the competitive intensity seems to be higher. So can you comment a bit on that?
Most of the large brands have increased prices on a similar range of what we've done. So we don't see anyone who is doing completely on the other side on a different way. And our idea is definitely we want to grow faster than our competition. Even this year, even with what we saw in Q1, we want to make sure that we will grow faster than others in the remaining 3 quarters. and we capture better market share than others.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone with a question, please request you to raise your hand. So we have next question. The name shows as Vinay Sarda again. Please request you to unmute your line, state your name and institution name. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My name is Karthikeyan. I work for Suyash Advisors. Just one question. What would the balance sheet look like in terms of debt at the end of the year? And some outlook on interest cost, please.
It's a little early to say that. Our goal is to make be debt free by year end. It is slightly on the higher side in Q1. Our idea is to go into net cash scenario by end of Q4. But I think we will be able to say that by end of Q2 we will get a better idea of how the market will be.
Right. Right. Last year you generated substantial operating cash flow. I'm assuming some of that was maybe one-off in nature. So, what would be a reasonable EBITDA to operating cash flow conversion that one can think of from now on?
There is not much investments which we are doing. Last year we've done about 10 crore of capital investments. This year it will be again 10 to 15 crore of investments. Apart from that, there is no cash outflow.
Thank you so much and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from Aditya Mehta. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for the follow-up. So, Mayur, last year we had some capacity constraint in Q2 and Q3 that we were not able to produce more than a limited quantity. So our turnover was limited to 300 crores per quarter. So for this year, how are we preparing for that?
See, we've already started investing. Last year we did about 10 crores of investment. Wherever the bottleneck is, we've started investing. What I can assure you is we will not lose sales because of capacity constraint. So we are investing wherever is necessary, and which is of the highest priority is invested first.
And the inventory which we have increased from the normal levels. So is it because of that the seasonal nature, or there's something other inventories?
It is majorly because of one reason is we lost some sales in Q1 because of lockdown. And we've also built inventory for the upcoming season because Q2 and Q3 you do a huge amount of sales. So we are prepared for that.
So this year we will not lose any sales because of the capacity constraint, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayur.
Thank you. Anyone with a question, request you to raise your hand. So I believe that there are no further questions. I'll now hand over to the management for the closing comments.
Yes, thank you, Vinay. Thank you all for attending our Q1 conference call. We would invite you to come for Q2 and Q3 and the other quarters also. We are very, very excited for this year, even though Q1 was a bit slower than what we expected. Current situation is very, very good. We feel that we will again do a record Q2 and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.
Recording stopped.